Chancellor Zorp's 7 eye stalks twisted in different directions, a physiological response that, among the Zlophians, indicated extreme stress. 6 of them monitored the various holographic displays floating around the grand chamber, while the 7th remained fixed on the rectangular package sitting on the ceremonial table. The package, labeled simply Humanity Starter Kit, had thrown the United Federation of Planets into unprecedented chaos. "I don't understand the urgency," Deputy Director Glix muttered, flicking through the standard admission protocols on his datapad. A member of the Lexiconian species, Glix was famous for his meticulousness and equally infamous for fainting at the slightest cultural shock. "We have procedures. 17,000 cycles of carefully developed procedures." Zorp's central eye stalk swiveled towards him. "Procedures, yes. But tell me, when was the last time a species developed faster-than-light travel, less than 200 years after discovering electricity?" The chamber, an impressive dome constructed to accommodate representatives from over 300 planetary systems, buzzed with nervous energy. The Federation prided itself on being the pinnacle of intergalactic governance, boasting that its rigorous admission process, spanning an average of 3 Earth centuries, ensured only the most civilized species joined their ranks. "Never," Glix admitted. "The standard developmental timeline suggests at least a millennium between primitive electrical manipulation and FDL capability." "Precisely," said Zorp, all 7 eye stalks now focusing intensely on the Deputy Director. "And yet, humans have done it. Not only that, but they've weaponized virtually every technology they've developed along the way." An Andorian representative raised a blue hand. "Chancellor, if I may speak plainly, this sounds like a security threat, not an admission case." Zorp nodded in acknowledgement. "Ambassador Teixoras, your concern is noted. However, consider the alternative. Do we really want a species with such accelerated development operating outside our regulatory framework?" The room fell silent. Federation members understood the implicit threat. For 17 millennia, they had maintained peace through bureaucracy, slowing down aggressive species with paperwork until their violent tendencies could be managed or evolved away. But humans seemed to thrive on bypassing obstacles. "Very well," Zorp continued. "We've taken the unprecedented step of sending an expedited invitation to Earth. Their representatives have responded by sending this kit ahead of their diplomatic envoy." "A starter kit?" Glix looked perplexed. "What does that even mean?" Zorp gestured to the package with 3 eye stalks simultaneously. "According to the transmission, it contains essential elements of human culture and achievement to facilitate understanding prior to formal contact." A Vulcan diplomat raised an eyebrow, the most extreme display of emotion his species permitted. "Logical. They wish to prepare us for cultural differences." "Or," interjected the Tellarite ambassador gruffly, "they're attempting to soften us up before we discover just how dangerous they truly are." Zorp felt the weight of leadership pressing down on him. The Federation had never fast-tracked a species before. His reputation, and potentially the safety of countless worlds, rested on this decision. "Let us proceed with caution," he announced finally. "We will examine the contents of this starter kit and reconvene in one standard cycle to determine our approach to the human delegation." As the chamber emptied, Zorp remained, staring at the unassuming box. One eye stalk involuntarily twisted into a tight coil, a sign of deep foreboding among his kind. "What have I done?" he whispered to the empty room. The Federation's Grand Assembly Hall had never been filled to capacity for an unboxing ceremony before. Typically, these events were small, dignified affairs attended only by the Cultural Integration Committee. But today, over 700 representatives crowded the tiered seating, their attention fixed on the central platform where the Humanity Starter Kit awaited. Chancellor Zorp entered with Deputy Director Glix and a specially formed human assessment team trailing behind. The delegation included scientists, diplomats, security experts, and cultural analysts from dozens of species. "Esteemed members of the Federation," Zorp began, his voice amplified throughout the hall. Today we embark on an unprecedented journey. The contents of this package will inform our approach to humanity's potential membership. Glick step forward, datapad ready. We have scanned the package for hazardous materials or biological contaminants. It appears safe to open. Proceed, Zorp commanded. With ceremonial precision, Glix activated the anti-gravity field around the box. Its lid slowly lifted, revealing neatly organized compartments inside. The first section contained data crystals, labeled in both Earth English and the Federation's standard interstellar language. The humans have provided cultural data in our format, noted the Balian scientific advisor. Impressive adaptation. Glix removed the first crystal and inserted it into the hall's central projector. This appears to be labeled Literature and Entertainment. The holographic display above the assembly flickered to life, showing a categorized library of human creative works. The assembly watched in fascination as sample texts, images, and video clips began cycling through. "Wait," called out Ambassador Hibzuras from the Andorian delegation. "Pause that sequence." The display froze on what appeared to be a fictional narrative about humans battling an invasion of reanimated corpses. "Are those dead bodies attacking living humans?" Hibzuras asked incredulously. According to the metadata, Glix consulted his datapad. This is from a genre called zombie apocalyptic fiction. Apparently, humans create entertainment about their own species being nearly exterminated. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The display continued, showing scenes from various disaster films, alien invasion narratives, and supernatural horror stories. They imagined their own destruction for pleasure. A Tellarite diplomat grunted. The Vulcan representative tilted her head. Fascinating. They appear to process existential anxiety through fictional scenarios. Glix, looking increasingly pale, advanced to the next section. Here we have examples of human literature across historical periods. The display showed everything from ancient epic poems to modern novels, many featuring magic, impossible technologies, or scenarios that defy the laws of physics. These narratives contain elements that are physically impossible, observed the science advisor. Yet they are not classified as factual errors. It's called fantasy, Glix read from the accompanying notes. Deliberate suspension of natural laws for entertainment purposes. Chancellor Zorp's eye stalks twisted uncomfortably. Continue to the next category. The projection shifted to show human cultural practices, focusing first on cuisine. Images of various earth foods appeared, along with descriptions. This substance called cheese is deliberately spoiled mammary secretions. Glix read, his voice rising an octave. And this alcohol is a neurotoxin they voluntarily consume for its mind-altering effects, added the medical officer. Most concerning, interjected a tall, crystalline being from the Security Council. Observe these spicy foods. The capsaicin compound is a plant's defense mechanism against being consumed, yet humans actively seek the pain it causes. Self-punishment as culinary preference? Zorp questioned, three eye stalks curling tightly. The display moved on to recreational activities. Footage showed humans jumping from great heights with fabric devices, climbing sheer rock faces without safety equipment, and engaging in various contact sports. Their leisure activities involve substantial risk of injury or death, noted Tijzoris. The final sequence showed social media compilations of humans performing dangerous stunts after saying the phrase, "hold my beer," an apparent reference to voluntarily impairing their cognitive functions before attempting perilous activities. Glix swayed slightly on his feet. "Chancellor, I'm detecting a pattern of deliberate risk-seeking behavior across multiple domains of human culture." The assembly erupted in overlapping conversations. Some representatives appeared fascinated, others horrified. A small contingent from the Commerce Guild seemed particularly interested in the section on chocolate and coffee. "Silence," Zorp commanded, all 7 eye stalks now rigid with tension. "Let us examine the physical artifacts." Glix carefully lifted items from the box. The first was a small jar labeled extra hot sauce. Warning, extreme. They sent us a weapon? gasped the security officer. No, corrected Glix, reading the attached note. Apparently, it's a condiment meant to enhance flavor through controlled pain. Next came various packaged foods. Chocolate bars, cheese samples, thoroughly sterilized, coffee beans, and something called Sour Patch Kids, which turned out to be candy that caused initial discomfort followed by sweetness. They experienced pain as a prelude to pleasure, questioned a confused delegate. The final compartment contained various entertainment items. Board games involving strategic warfare, devices for simulating high-risk activities in virtual environments, and music players preloaded with Earth's most popular songs. As the assembly examined these articles, distinct factions began to form. The Security Council huddled together, gesturing emphatically toward the display of human combat sports. The science division seemed split between fascination and concern. The commerce representatives were already discussing potential trade opportunities. These humans, Tishuras declared loudly, demonstrate a pattern of behavior inconsistent with Federation stability. They seek danger, imagine disaster, and convert poisons into pleasures. How can we possibly integrate such a species? Yet their technological achievements are remarkable, countered the Vulcan representative. And their creativity, while chaotic, shows unique problem-solving capabilities. Chancellor Zorp raised his appendages for silence. We must deliberate carefully. What we've seen today raises questions about human compatibility with our civilized society. However, their rapid advancement makes them a species we cannot afford to ignore. As the assembly dispersed, Zorp and Glix remained behind, contemplating the artifacts spread before them. In all my cycles, Glix said quietly, I've never encountered a species that creates fictional accounts of their own extinction for entertainment. Nor have I, admitted Zorp, his eye stalks drooping slightly. The question before us is profound. Is humanity's chaotic nature a threat to our order, or could it be beneficial in ways we've yet to understand? Glix had no answer, and Zorp didn't expect one. For the first time in 17,000 cycles, the Federation faced a species that defied categorization. The next meeting would be even more challenging, and potentially far more consequential. The emergency plenary session of the United Federation of Planets Grand Council commenced exactly 52 hours after the unboxing of the Humanity Starter Kit. The massive chamber, designed to accommodate representatives from every member world, hummed with nervous energy. Extra security personnel lined the walls, a rare sight at diplomatic gatherings. Chancellor Zorp took his position at the central podium, 7 eye stalks scanning the room. Where Federation meetings normally proceeded with methodical slowness, today there was an almost palpable urgency. Esteemed representatives, Zorp began, we face an unprecedented situation. The human delegation will arrive in less than 24 hours, giving us limited time to establish our official position. The chamber's holographic displays activated, showing analysis results from the Humanity Starter Kit. A three-dimensional matrix appeared, comparing human developmental patterns with those of all known sapient species. As you can see, Zorp continued, humans represent a significant outlier in multiple categories. Their technological development curve is nearly vertical compared to the Federation average. Their cultural evolution shows similar acceleration. Deputy Director Glix stepped forward, still looking somewhat pale after his exhaustive analysis of human entertainment media. Most concerning is their approach to risk assessment. Where Federation species typically develop safety protocols alongside technology, humans often deploy innovations first and develop safeguards only after catastrophic failures. The Andorian security bloc, led by Ambassador Tishuras, rose as one. Chancellor, our position is clear. Earth must be contained, not welcomed. Their pattern of behavior suggests they would destabilize millennia of careful diplomacy within weeks of admission. Tishuras gestured to a holographic display showing Earth's military history. They've weaponized nearly every discovery, from simple chemistry to nuclear physics. Even their games simulate warfare. Look at this chess. It's entirely based on conquest and domination. The Vulcan delegation, seated opposite the Andorians, raised their hands in the traditional gesture requesting recognition. Ambassador Svorin, Zorp acknowledged. The Vulcan rose gracefully. While the Andorian concerns have merit, our scientific assessment suggests isolation would be more dangerous than integration. Humans have already achieved faster-than-light travel. Containment is no longer a viable strategy. Logic dictates we guide their development rather than allow it to proceed unchecked. A representative from the Ferengi Trade Alliance activated his speaking light. If I may interject, Chancellor, we see tremendous economic potential in human cultural products. Their entertainment industry generates emotional responses unlike anything in Federation markets. And this substance they call chocolate could revolutionize the luxury consumable sector. You would risk Federation stability for profit? Tej Zora's challenged. Not at all. The Ferengi replied smoothly. We simply recognize that integration has multiple benefits, including economic ones. Chancellor Zorp raised all 7 appendages for silence as the chamber threatened to dissolve into factional arguments. We must maintain order, he insisted. Let us proceed systematically through the key concerns. The holographic display shifted to show human entertainment content. Scenes from disaster films, horror narratives, and apocalyptic scenarios played in sequence. First, Zorp said, we must address the psychological implications of human entertainment preferences. They seem fixated on imagining their own destruction. The Federation's chief xenopsychologist, a luminous jellyfish-like being floating in a specialized environment suit, moved to the central platform. Our analysis suggests these dark imaginings serve as emotional regulation mechanisms, the psychologist explained, tendrils pulsating with bioluminescent patterns. Rather than indicating destructive desires, they appear to function as psychological safety valves. By exploring worst-case scenarios fictitiously, humans process anxieties without acting on them. That's speculation, countered Techosaurus. We cannot risk Federation security on psychological theories. The display shifted again, showing humans engaging in extreme sports and dangerous recreational activities. Their risk-taking behavior extends beyond entertainment. Glix noted, many human leisure activities carry mortality risks that would be unacceptable to most Federation species. A small, previously silent delegation from a planet near the galactic core activated their translator devices. Their spokesperson, barely a meter tall with iridescent scales, addressed the assembly. If we may offer perspective, they said, our preliminary analysis of human social media suggests these extreme activities are performed by minority subsets seeking status through demonstrations of courage. Most humans admire, but do not emulate this behavior. That's still worrying, rumbled a massive delegate from a high-gravity world. A species that admires unnecessary risk-taking might bring that attitude to interstellar diplomacy. The debate continued, growing more heated as faction aligned with faction. The security bloc, led by the Andorians, maintained that humanity represented an unacceptable threat. The scientific community, while acknowledging concerns, argued that human creativity offered unique benefits. The Commerce Guild saw opportunities for cultural exchange and trade. A small but vocal minority, mostly younger representatives who had been studying human internet culture, had become unexpected advocates for Earth's admission. Chancellor Zorp observed the divisions with mounting concern. The Federation rarely faced such contentious decisions. Their normal approach, lengthy deliberations spanning decades, was impossible given humanity's rapid advancement. Deputy Director Glix approached the podium, clutching his datapad nervously. Chancellor, there's something else you should see. He transferred data to the main display, showing a document labeled Federation Charter, Section 7, Paragraph 3. Our legal experts have been reviewing the admission protocols, Glix explained. According to the Charter, we cannot reject a species based on cultural differences alone if they meet the technological criteria for membership. There must be evidence of active hostility toward Federation principles. Are you suggesting we have no choice? Th. Zoras demanded. Not exactly, Glix replied. but the legal barriers to rejection are significant. We would need to amend the charter itself, which requires a unanimous vote. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Everyone present knew that unanimity was virtually impossible to achieve, especially on short notice. A communication officer burst into the chamber, interrupting the proceedings, another unprecedented event. She hurried to Zorp's podium and whispered urgently in his ear. All 7 of the Chancellor's eye stalks shot upright in shock. "Esteemed representatives," he announced, his voice wavering slightly. "I have just received word that the human delegation has arrived." "Arrived?" Glick squeaked. "They weren't scheduled until tomorrow." "Apparently," Zorp said dryly, "they finished their preparations ahead of schedule and decided not to wait. They are currently at the spaceport requesting immediate transport to Federation headquarters." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some delegates called for postponement. Others insisted on proceeding immediately. Security officials began implementing emergency protocols while diplomatic experts hastily reviewed first contact procedures. "Silence," Zorp commanded, his voice amplified to override the commotion. "We have no choice but to receive them. The Federation will not appear disorganized or unprepared." He turned to Glix, whose complexion had taken on an alarming pallor. "Deputy Director, arrange for immediate transport. Ambassador Svorin, as our most experienced first contact specialist, please join me in the reception chamber. The rest of you, prepare your final positions for vote within 3 hours." As delegates rushed to comply, Zorp felt a curious sensation in his central nervous ganglion, something between dread and exhilaration. In 17,000 cycles, the Federation had developed routines for every conceivable diplomatic scenario. Until now. "They're early," he muttered to himself as he headed for the reception chamber. Of course they're early. The Federation's ceremonial reception hall had been designed to accommodate diverse life forms from across the galaxy. Its environmental systems could replicate any atmosphere, gravity condition, or temperature range required for comfort. Its walls shifted color to avoid visual offense to photosensitive species. The acoustics dampened sounds that might disturb sensitive auditory organs. None of these sophisticated systems had prepared the hall for humans. Chancellor Zorp, Deputy Director Glix, Ambassador Svorin, and representatives from the Security, Science, and Commerce Division stood in formal arrangement, awaiting the arrival of Earth's delegation. Protocol dictated a specific formation based on rank and function, with careful spacing to respect the personal boundaries of all species. Remember, Zorp instructed the reception committee, no sudden movements. Many species interpret rapid motion as aggression and maintain formal address at all times, added Glix, clutching his protocol tablet. The initial greeting phase should last approximately 20 minutes before substantive discussion begins. The massive doors slid open. 5 humans entered, 3 males and 2 females, dressed in what the briefing materials identified as business casual attire. They walked in not with the measured pace of formal diplomacy, but with the relaxed gait of friends entering a social gathering. "Hey there," called the lead human, a tall female with dark curly hair. "I'm Ambassador Sarah Chen." "Ambassador Chun," Chancellor Zorp cut in urgently. "Welcome to the United Federation of Planets. We are honored by your presence and prepared to initiate formal first contact procedures." The woman looked momentarily startled, then laughed. "Oh, I'm not Ambassador Chun. She couldn't make it. Food poisoning from some questionable sushi. I'm Dr. Eliza Martinez, the cultural attaché. We figured it was better to send someone than reschedule, you know?" Zorp's eye stalks twisted in confusion. A substitute representative? At a first contact meeting? The Federation's diplomatic corps would sooner send a kitchen appliance to negotiations than a replacement diplomat. "I see," Zorp managed, while Glix furiously consulted the protocol database for contingency procedures. "Then we welcome you, Dr. Martinez, and your associates. Great to meet you." She stepped forward with hand extended, a gesture the briefing had identified as a handshake involving physical contact between strangers. Zorp, whose species communicated telepathically at close range, froze in momentary panic before carefully extending one appendage. The touch was brief but sent cascades of unfiltered human thought fragments through his nervous system. Excitement, curiosity, slight anxiety, and the peculiar sensation that the human found his eye stalks adorable. The other humans introduced themselves in quick succession. Tom Guria, Economic Development. Jack Patel, Scientific Exchange. Maria Rodriguez, Defense Liaison. Dylan Watts, Cultural Integration. I brought tacos. The last human held up a thermal container. The reception committee stared in confused silence. Tacos, Dylan repeated, opening the container to reveal folded food items. Earth cuisine. Figured you might be curious. They're vegetarian, so hopefully nobody here will be allergic. Ambassador Svorin stepped forward with Vulcan composure. We appreciate the cultural offering, but our digestive systems are not compatible with Earth nutrition. No problem, Dylan replied cheerfully. More for us, then. But maybe your scientists can analyze them? You know, for science. Glix, who had finally located the protocol for unexpected diplomatic substitutions, cleared his throat. Perhaps we should proceed to the formal exchange of— Oh, Maria Rodriguez interrupted, approaching Ambassador Kitsuras with an enthusiastic expression. You must be Andorian. The antennae are just like in our historical records. This is so exciting. Before anyone could stop her, she raised her hand in a strange splayed finger gesture. Live long and prosper. Kitsuras stared at her in frozen shock. In Andorian culture, displaying all 5 digits simultaneously was a challenge to physical combat. Dr. Martinez, Zorp intervened quickly. Perhaps we should move to the council chamber for formal discussions. Sure thing, Eliza agreed easily. Lead the way. Oh, and we brought some gifts, just a few things to represent Earth culture. Tom Guria held up a package. T-shirts for everyone. They say my friend went to Earth, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. It's a joke, see? Because we're the first delegation, so nobody's actually been to Earth yet. The reception committee stood in stunned silence as the humans continued chatting, pointing out architectural features of the hall and asking casual questions about the various species present. Federation protocol for first contact involved 47 distinct phases of formal introduction. The humans had bypassed approximately 45 of them in under 3 minutes. Glix, overwhelmed by the protocol violations, began to sway on his feet. Zorp quickly dispatched a telepathic message. Asterisk, hold yourself together, Director. We cannot show weakness. Asterisk. If you'll follow me, Zorp said with forced calm, the Grand Council awaits your presentation. As they moved toward the council chamber, Dylan Watts approached Zorp with a curious expression. So, about that starter kit we sent, what'd you guys think? The tacos were sort of follow-up. Zorp's central eye stalk fixed on the human. It was illuminating. Cool, Dylan nodded. So you watched the movies? What did you think of The Day After Tomorrow? Pretty wild, right? Indeed, Zorp replied carefully. Your species' fascination with its own destruction is noteworthy. Dylan laughed. Oh, that. Yeah, we like to imagine the worst that could happen. Helps us prepare, you know? Plus, it's just entertaining to watch stuff blow up. Doesn't mean we actually want it to happen. I see, said Zorp, though he absolutely did not see. They reached the council chamber doors. Beyond them, the entire Federation assembly waited in a state of unprecedented anxiety. Many had been arguing about humanity's potential threat level just moments ago. Now, they would face actual humans who brought tacos and lousy T-shirts to a historic diplomatic summit. Ready when you are, Eliza said brightly. Zorp took a moment to compose himself, his eye stalks aligning in a formal pattern. Deputy Director Glix, please announce the human delegation. Glix, still visibly distressed but maintaining professional composure, stepped forward to activate the announcement system. The massive doors parted, and the humans walked into the council chamber with the casual confidence of old friends arriving at a dinner party. Here goes nothing, Zorp muttered to himself as he followed them in. The Grand Council chamber fell into a hushed silence as the human delegation entered. 700 representatives from across the galaxy stared at the 5 humans who strolled in with casual ease, looking around with expressions of undisguised wonder. "Whoa," Jack Patel whispered, though the chamber's perfect acoustics carried his voice throughout the hall. "This is straight out of Star Trek." Chancellor Zorp took his position at the central podium while Deputy Director Glix guided the humans to the speaker's platform, a floating disc designed to elevate delegations for formal address. "Esteemed representatives of the United Federation of Planets," Zorp began, his voice resonating through the chamber. "I present the delegation from Earth, led by Dr. Eliza Martinez, cultural attaché. The formal protocol required the visiting delegation to remain silent during introduction, waiting for the Chancellor to complete the 17 traditional welcomes. However, hi everyone," Eliza waved enthusiastically. "It's amazing to be here. We're absolutely thrilled to meet you all." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. An unauthorized greeting before the welcoming ceremony? Unprecedented. Zorp's eye stalks twisted slightly before he regained composure. "As I was saying, we welcome the Earth delegation to this historic—" "If I could just say," Eliza continued, apparently unaware of the protocol breach, "we've been watching your civilization from afar for decades, and the opportunity to finally meet is just incredible. We brought some gifts." Tom Nguria stepped forward, holding up colorful packages. "T-shirts for everyone, and posters of Earth's natural wonders. Oh, and commemorative pins of our solar system." The chamber erupted in confused whispers. Gift-giving came at the conclusion of diplomatic meetings, not the beginning. The carefully choreographed ceremony was disintegrating before it had properly begun. Ambassador Kitsuras rose from his seat, antennae rigid with indignation. "Chancellor, I must protest this disregard for protocol." "Oh no," Eliza said quickly. "We meant no disrespect. We're just excited. If we violated any customs, please let us know." Zorp hesitated. The diplomatic handbook offered no guidance for responding to sincere apologies for protocol violations during a first contact ceremony. Such a situation had never arisen in 17,000 cycles. "Perhaps," he suggested carefully, "we should proceed to the substantive portion of our meeting. The Federation has reviewed your starter kit and has several questions regarding human culture and intentions." "Fire away," Jack Patel said, cheerfully. Another ripple of confusion swept the chamber. The phrase "fire away" triggered security alerts in several delegations, causing protective shields to activate around their seating areas. "It's just an expression," Maria Rodriguez explained quickly, noticing the reaction. "It means, please proceed with your questions. No actual firing involved." The shields reluctantly powered down. Zorp signaled for the first official question. "The Federation is concerned," he began carefully, "about certain aspects of human culture. Specifically, your entertainment seems fixated on scenarios of mass destruction, alien invasions, and societal collapse. Does this reflect hostile intentions toward other species?" The humans exchanged glances, then burst into laughter, causing yet another wave of confusion among the assembly. "I'm sorry," Eliza said, composing herself. "We're not laughing at you. It's just, we make those films precisely because we don't want those things to happen. It's like psychological vaccination. We imagine the worst so we can prevent it. Also," Dylan added, "explosions look cool on screen, but we know the difference between movies and reality. But your historical records show constant warfare," challenged a Tellarite representative. "You've weaponized every technology you've developed." "Fair point," Maria acknowledged. "We've made some serious mistakes, but that's exactly why we're here. We've learned that cooperation beats conflict. It just took us a while to figure that out." "What about these recreational activities?" Deputy Director Glix asked, displaying holographic images of extreme sports. "You deliberately risk death for entertainment." Jack Patel grinned. "Most of us don't jump out of perfectly good airplanes. That's a small subset of thrill seekers. But yes, Pushing boundaries is part of our nature. It's how we've advanced so quickly. In your cuisine, continued Glix, displaying images of various Earth foods. You deliberately consume spoiled milk proteins, neurotoxins, and plant defense chemicals for pleasure. When you put it that way, cheese and wine do sound pretty weird, Tom admitted. But they're delicious. Cultural preferences evolve in unexpected ways. The questioning continued for hours, with Federation representatives raising concerns about everything from human music, why so many songs about heartbreak, to economic systems you still use physical currency, to clothing choices, why restrict blood flow with neckties. Throughout it all, the humans responded with good humor, honest acknowledgement of their flaws, and enthusiasm for learning about other species. Rather than becoming defensive, they seemed genuinely interested in how they were perceived. As the session progressed, a subtle shift occurred in the chamber. The initial tension began to dissolve. Several delegates leaned forward with increasing curiosity. Others began asking questions not from the prepared list but from personal interest. A turning point came when a Balian representative asked about human mating rituals, causing uncomfortable shuffling among the diplomatic corps. Well, Eliza began carefully. That varies widely across cultures and individuals. But generally, it involves getting to know each other, finding common interests, and dating apps. Dylan interjected. You swipe right if you think someone's hot. Dylan, Eliza scolded, but laughter had already erupted across the chamber, not just from the humans, but from several Federation delegates as well. After nearly 5 hours of questioning, Chancellor Zorp called for a brief recess. The human delegation was escorted to a waiting area while the Federation Council deliberated. In the private chamber adjacent to the council hall, Zorp, Glix, and key representatives from the major factions gathered for an emergency assessment. They're nothing like we expected, Teach Zuras admitted reluctantly. Less threatening, more chaotic, supplied Ambassador Svorin. But not maliciously so. The Ferengi trade representative rubbed his hands together. Did you see how they brought gifts immediately? Excellent commercial instincts. Their disregard for protocol is concerning, Glix fretted. But they adapt quickly when errors are pointed out. Zorp's eye stalks wave in a pattern indicating deep thought. What strikes me most is their comfort with contradiction. They create entertainment about disasters they hope to avoid. They acknowledge their violent history while expressing desire for peace. They are, paradoxically, predictable in their unpredictability. Can the Federation accommodate such a species? Asked the security chief. Can we afford not to? Countered Svorin. Their development continues whether we admit them or not. Better to have them within our regulatory framework than operating independently. After further discussion, they returned to the chamber for the final phase of the meeting. The human delegation, refreshed and seemingly unfazed by the marathon questioning, took their positions on the platform once more. Chancellor Zorp addressed them formally. Dr. Martinez, on behalf of the United Federation of Planets, I thank you for your candor. The Council requires time for full deliberation on Earth's application. However, I am authorized to share our preliminary findings. All 7 of his eye stalks focused on the humans. Humanity presents unique challenges to our established order. Your development has been unconventional. Your cultural practices raise questions about compatibility. The humans' expressions grew serious, preparing for rejection. However, Zorp continued, we also recognize unique potential in your species. Your creativity, adaptability, and willing acknowledgement of your flaws suggest capacity for growth. Therefore, we propose an unprecedented arrangement, provisional membership status, while we develop special integration protocols. Eliza's face broke into a broad smile. Chancellor, we would be honored to accept provisional status. Earth understands that our ways might seem strange to others. We're committed to learning and adapting while still being ourselves. That is precisely what we hope for, Zorp replied, surprising himself with his sincerity. Deputy Director Glix will oversee the creation of a special committee for human integration. We anticipate a full membership decision within one standard cycle. As the formal proceedings concluded, something unexpected happened. Federation delegates began approaching the humans informally, asking questions, examining the T-shirts and commemorative pins. Several even cautiously accepted pieces of the now room temperature tacos, passing them to scientific staff for analysis rather than consumption. Zorp watched this spontaneous interaction with a mixture of concern and fascination. Federation meetings typically concluded with formal dispersal, not mingling. Yet another protocol broken in the human's presence. Quite remarkable, observed Ambassador Svorin, who had appeared silently at Zorp's side. They display an infectious enthusiasm. Infectious is the word, Zorp agreed. I'm concerned about the influence they might have on our more impressionable members. Indeed, a young Balian delegate was already attempting to replicate the high-five gesture with Dylan Watts, though their differing numbers of digits made it awkward. What have we done, Svorin? Zorp asked quietly. Is this the beginning of chaos, or something else entirely? The Vulcan considered for a moment. Perhaps it is the beginning of necessary evolution, Chancellor. The Federation has grown comfortable with predictability. Humans appear to thrive on its opposite. As Zorp watched the impromptu cultural exchange unfolding across the chamber, he couldn't help but wonder if the Federation would ever be the same again. 6 standard months had passed since the provisional acceptance of Earth into the Federation. Deputy Director Glix sat in his office, surrounded by holographic displays showing various metrics and reports. The Special Human Integration Committee had been the most demanding assignment of his career and, surprisingly, the most rewarding. A chime announced Chancellor Zorp's arrival. All 7 eye stalks were in a relaxed position, a stark contrast to the twisted anxiety they had displayed during those first meetings. Director Glix, Zorp greeted. I've reviewed your final report on human integration. It's unconventional. Glix nodded, gesturing to the displays. As are the results, Chancellor. I never expected to write exceeds expectations so many times. The data told a remarkable story. Human diplomatic missions had established relations with 17 previously resistant species. Trade routes involving Earth had increased efficiency by 23%. Cultural exchange programs were oversubscribed, with Federation citizens competing for opportunities to study human art, music, and cuisine. Most surprising, Glix continued, is the Innovation Index. Collaborative projects between human and Federation scientists are producing results at 2.7 times the standard rate. And the concerns about disruption? Zorp inquired, iStock's shifting to focus on security metrics. Not unfounded, Glix admitted. There have been incidents. The display showed several reports. A diplomatic function where an Andorian ambassador had consumed human tequila and attempted to dance on a table. A formal negotiation delayed when both parties became engrossed in a human board game called Monopoly. An official Federation broadcast interrupted by something called a rickroll. Yet none catastrophic, Glix added quickly. In fact, many of these disruptions ultimately facilitated better relations. The Andorian incident resulted in their first trade agreement with the Tellarites in 3 centuries. Zorps. iStocks formed a pattern indicating amused disbelief. They're changing us, aren't they? Indisputably, agreed Glix. But perhaps that's not entirely negative. The bureaucracy that once took 3 years to approve a simple form, now completed in 6 months. Emergency response protocols that required 17 approvals, streamlined to 3. Zorp moved to the window overlooking the Federation's capital city. Changes were visible even from this height. Colorful advertising displayed Federation products alongside Earth imports. Citizens from dozens of species wore shirts with human phrases or logos. A group of young Vulcans appear to be playing frisbee in the central plaza. The council votes tomorrow on full membership, Zorp said. What is your recommendation, Director? Glix had prepared an extensive analysis with multiple contingencies and risk assessments. But after 6 months of human influence, he found himself offering a simpler answer. I believe we should admit them, Chancellor, while maintaining special monitoring, of course. Your reasoning? Glix considered carefully before responding. Two primary factors. First, pragmatically, they will continue advancing with or without us. Better to have them within our regulatory framework. And second, prompted Zorp. They make us better, Glick said simply. Not despite their chaotic nature, but because of it. They challenge our assumptions. Where we see processes, they see possibilities. Where we see risks, they see adventures. Zorp was silent for a long moment, eye stalks shifting through complex patterns. 6 months ago, you nearly fainted when they showed us competitive eating videos. I've developed a stronger constitution, Glix replied with dignity. I can now watch an entire Hot Ones episode without medical intervention. Impressive, Zorp acknowledged. And your personal assessment of humans after this immersion period? Glix touched a control, displaying images from his recent diplomatic visits to Earth. The photos showed him participating in various human activities, attending a baseball game, trying ice cream, even cautiously riding a roller coaster with multiple safety harnesses. They're reckless, impulsive, contradictory, and frequently illogical, Glix said. They consume harmful substances for pleasure, create art about disasters they fear, and turn everything into competition. Their formal diplomacy is casual. Their casual interactions are intense. They simultaneously plan for the distant future while living entirely in the moment. That sounds like a recommendation against admission, Zorp noted. On the contrary, Glick smiled, a gesture he had adopted from human colleagues. Those same qualities make them the most fascinating species I've encountered in 233 cycles of diplomatic service. They are exactly what the Federation needs to avoid stagnation. Zorp nodded slowly. I've come to a similar conclusion. The vote tomorrow is expected to be overwhelmingly positive. As the Chancellor turned to leave, he paused at the door. One last question, Director. That phrase on your desk ornament, what does it mean? Glix glanced at the small item, a gift from the human delegation. It was a miniature Earth globe with the inscription, "Hold my beer." It's a human expression, Glix explained. It roughly translates to, I am about to do something inadvisable but potentially revolutionary. How appropriate, Zorp said, eye stalks forming a pattern of wry amusement. Perhaps we should adopt it as the official slogan for human integration. The following day, the Grand Council chamber was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from every Federation world had gathered for the historic vote. The atmosphere was markedly different from that first emergency session 6 months earlier. Delegates chatted informally before the proceedings. Several wore human-inspired accessories. A Vulcan with a "Logic is my superpower" pin, an Andorian sporting a baseball cap, a Tellarite carrying a vacuum-sealed coffee mug. Chancellor Zorp called the session to order, his formal robes adorned with a small Earth flag pin, a diplomatic courtesy that had become unexpectedly fashionable among Federation officials. Esteemed representatives, he began, today we vote on the full membership of Earth in the United Federation of Planets. Before we proceed, Dr. Eliza Martinez will address the assembly. Eliza stepped onto the platform, now familiar with the protocol, mostly. She still moved with that distinctly human casualness that had initially shocked the Federation diplomats, but was now regarded almost fondly. Distinguished delegates, she began, 6 months ago, we arrived here as strangers. You received our humanity starter kit with understandable concern. Our ways seemed chaotic, even dangerous. Today, we stand before you not as perfect beings who have overcome all our flaws, but as a species committed to growing alongside you. She gestured to the human delegation, which had expanded to include specialists in various fields. We've learned much from you. Your patience, your careful deliberation, your respect for established wisdom. We hope we've offered something in return. Our creativity, our willingness to take risks, our ability to find joy in uncertainty. A federation that includes Earth won't be the same federation you've known for 17,000 cycles, she acknowledged. But change isn't always something to fear. Sometimes it's exactly what we need to become better versions of ourselves. The chamber was silent as she concluded, the respectful silence of genuine consideration rather than the tense silence of their first encounter. Chancellor Zorp stepped forward. We will now proceed with the vote. The results appeared on the massive display. 276 in favor, 24 against, 3 abstentions. Earth had been accepted into the United Federation of Planets. Applause erupted throughout the chamber, another human custom that had been increasingly adopted in Federation proceedings. Several delegates attempted to whistle, though anatomical differences produced some interesting sounds. As the formal session concluded, the chamber transformed into something between a diplomatic reception and what humans would call a party. Federation protocol had evolved to incorporate more casual interactions following official business, a change directly attributed to human influence. Chancellor Zorp found himself beside Ambassador Svorin, watching the celebration. Did you ever imagine this outcome when we first opened that starter kit? Zorp asked. Not precisely, the Vulcan admitted, though the logical conclusion was always that adaptation would occur. I simply underestimated its extent and bidirectionality. Across the room, a Balian diplomat was teaching Dr. Martinez a traditional greeting dance, while nearby, Jack Patel demonstrated the fist bump to curious Andorian delegates. Tom Ngria and a group of commerce representatives were huddled around a display showing Earth's global stock market, engaged in animated discussion. Maria Rodriguez had attracted a crowd with her demonstration of a human martial art that somehow incorporated rhythmic music. Deputy Director Glix approached, looking remarkably comfortable amidst the commotion. Chancellor, the human delegation has asked if they could make a toast, apparently a ritual involving symbolic consumption of beverages to mark significant occasions. Is it dangerous? Zorp inquired, eye stalks forming a pattern of mild concern. Only in excessive quantities, Glix assured him. I've arranged for compatible beverages for all physiologies. They were quite insistent it would be bad luck to skip this tradition. Zorp nodded approval. Very well. It seems appropriate to embrace human customs as they join our community. Glasses of various shapes and sizes, containing liquids safe for each species' consumption, were distributed throughout the chamber. Eliza Martinez took a position in the center of the room, raising her glass. In human tradition, she announced, we mark momentous occasions by sharing a drink and a few words. So if you'll indulge us in our first official Federation toast. The assembly raised their glasses, some with practiced ease, others with careful imitation. To new beginnings, Eliza said, to the endless possibilities that arise when different worlds come together, and to the understanding that our greatest strength lies not in our similarities, but in how we complement each other's differences. To new beginnings, echoed throughout the chamber as delegates took ceremonial sips. As the celebration continued, Chancellor Zorp found a quiet moment to reflect. 6 months ago, the Federation had opened a simple box labeled Humanity Starter Kit and panicked at its contents. Today, they celebrated the very differences that had initially alarmed them. Perhaps, Zorp mused, that was humanity's greatest gift to the Federation. Not their technology or their resources, but their ability to transform fear of the unknown into curiosity and eventually appreciation. A young aide approached, interrupting his thoughts. Chancellor, the human delegation has requested permission to introduce something called a DJ and dance floor to the proceedings. Zorp's eye stalks formed a pattern that, 6 months ago, would have indicated alarm. Now, it suggested amused resignation. Permission granted, he said, but remind them of the Zornian delegates' sensitivity to percussion. As the aide hurried away, Zorp caught sight of Deputy Director Glix being taught what appeared to be a human dance move by Dylan Watts. The dignified lexiconian was attempting to move his limbs in a pattern entirely inconsistent with his species' natural coordination and laughing at his own awkwardness. That image, perhaps more than anything, summarized the transformation. The Federation had spent 17,000 cycles perfecting order, procedure, and predictability. In just 6 months, humans had introduced the revolutionary concept that imperfection could be not just acceptable, but delightful. The United Federation of Planets had indeed regretted asking what was in the humanity starter kit, but only because once the box was opened, there was no going back. The chaos had been unleashed, and to everyone's surprise, it was exactly what they needed. As the celebration continued around him, Chancellor Zorp raised his glass in a private toast. To humanity, he murmured, "May we survive your influence and thrive because of it."